This is Optimal Living Daily, episode 593, Productivity Advice for the Weird, Part 3, by Ramit Sethi of IWT.com, and I'm Justin Malik, your very own personal narrator. Welcome to the podcast where blogs are read to you, so you can take a break from staring at a screen for once, and it is with permission from the authors. Today's author being Ramit Sethi, and this is the final part of a post that I broke into 3. Before we get to it, thank you to Talkspace for sponsoring this episode. Talkspace is an online therapy company that makes therapy affordable, confidential, and convenient. For a special offer just for you, come by Talkspace.com/old. That's Talkspace.com/OLD. And now let's finish up this post as we optimize your life. Productivity Advice for the Weird, Part 3, by Ramit Sethi of IWT.com. Mind hack number 3. Be positive and resilient. Even though life often seems empty and meaningless, and most of what we do will have absolutely zero impact on anything on this planet, I consider myself an optimist. At least that's what I tell myself. The most successful people I know are optimistic. That doesn't mean they're bubbly or effusive. Some of them seem like they're one step away from a mental institution. They're optimistic in themselves. They have the confidence to know that if something goes wrong, they can bounce back. They have the confidence to know if they sign up to do something they've never tried before, they can figure it out. And they have the confidence to know that the little habits they've built over years and years are more important than one binge, one late night, or one day of blowing it off and going to the movies. A lot of people look at all these systems and calendars and borderline nut job processes I've built and wonder how tightly wound I must be. Hey, maybe they're right. But in reality, most of these habits don't take much time at all because I built them years and years ago. They allow me to be totally present and focused on whatever I'm doing. Counterintuitively, discipline gives me freedom. Just like a great investor knows any individual stock is not going to make or break his portfolio, I know that one day, even a day where I wake up late, eat an insane amount of food, nap half the day, and watch 15 shows on Netflix, is not going to hurt much. That actually sounds pretty fun, because I have the confidence in myself and my systems to know that I'll bounce back tomorrow and get back into it. How to handle setbacks with a resilient mindset. Number 1, when something goes wrong, you wake up late, miss a deadline, skip the gym, or overeat, do you beat yourself up? Or do you take it in stride knowing you have the systems and support to get back on track tomorrow? Number 2, do you have a system you use if you fall behind? For example, I build in catch-up time on Wednesdays for anything I've fallen behind on. Number 3, in his book, How to Fail at Almost Everything and Still Win Big, Scott Adams tells the story of getting a rare disorder that threatened to permanently take away his ability to speak. While in the hospital, he could have gotten depressed, but he knew how to keep himself optimistic. He repeated to himself over and over, I, Scott Adams, will speak perfectly. Do you give yourself this kind of positive reinforcement? Tier 3, details. This is where people spend 90% of their time, when in reality, if you've tackled the first 2 pillars, you should spend less than 10% here. It's like writing a college paper. If you master the material and create a detailed outline, the type of pencil you use really doesn't matter. Tactical rules of thumb I use. Number 1, if you can fix something with money, fix it with money. The $100 solution is more powerful than you can imagine, especially when it comes to hiring someone to do something that's been nagging at you or that you dislike doing. Things like hiring someone to come in and fix some basic thing, pack your clothes, sit down with you and set up email filters, styling, cleaning your closet. Number 2, automate your repetitive tasks. I have things auto-delivered as much as possible. For example, every week, I get coffee automatically ground and sent to me. Same with toiletries, food, etc. It just shows up and I never worry if I'm going to run out of anything. Number 3, use systems to help you be proactive about things you want to do. For example, I know the birthdays of all my family members. Instead of just getting reminded about it the day of, I make sure to get reminded 2 weeks before so I can think about gifts and send something to arrive on their birthday. Apps I use. You don't need 10 million apps, but I'll give you a couple to stop the 10,000 emails I get about this. Number 1, TripIt. Puts all of your travel information in a single place. This app automatically updates flight status and displays my confirmation number right when I open it. Number 2, Pinboard and Pocket. Whenever I see something I want to read, I bank it for later so I can focus on my current day. especially on Wednesdays when I read all my items tagged strategy. Number 3, sane box, used for follow-ups to check on people I want to make fun of. Number 4, reminders. For every event on my calendar, Google, I have reminders ping me 5 minutes before on text and my calendar, and my assistant messages me in Slack. That's 3 points of failure, and sometimes I need all 3 to save me from letting a meeting slip. Number 5, Google spreadsheet to keep track of contacts. Every year I sit down and ask myself, who am I meeting and what's the quality of those relationships? I keep a list of every single person I meet all year. If I've met 5 people, that's not good for me. And with this, I can remember to send follow-ups, interesting articles, invitations, etc. I fight to make time for these new relationships. To recap, this is totally different than the typical you need this app approach. Yes, it's much more challenging at first because you're forced to interrogate your own psychology. You face your emotional resistance head on and you take control of your environment. But once you do this, it becomes much easier because you no longer have to rely on willpower or motivation. I set up my systems once and then I'm finished. Compare this to people who spend years wondering why they aren't living the life they want. You just listened to part 3 of the post titled Productivity Advice for the Weird by Ramit Sethi of IWT.com. I'll share some of my own thoughts in a second, but first, thank you to Talkspace for sponsoring this episode. They offer an amazing service to connect with therapists online and at a really great price. You can have a licensed therapist handpicked just for you for as little as $32 a week. And what's really cool is that Talkspace allows you to send your therapist text, audio, and video messages whenever you want, or you can take it up a notch and do a live chat. You have the options and can go at your own pace. Plus, you don't have to drive to a therapist and wait in a lobby or any of that. Try it out. To sign up or to learn more, come by Talkspace.com/old, and they have a special offer for you listening to this episode. You can use the coupon code OLD and get $30 off your first month, all while showing support for this podcast. Again, that's the coupon code OLD, and you can use that at Talkspace.com/OLD. Back to Ramit's post, I'm a big fan of automating where you can. So as you go about your day today, really think about that. You don't have to be a business owner or freelancer or anything like that to set up some automations. Like, do you have a cat or dog and you have to regularly go to a pet store to get their food or litter if it's a cat? Maybe you can automate that. Many sites like Amazon even have discounts if you choose a subscription and set that up for a monthly delivery. It can end up being cheaper, not only because actual price is cheaper online than a pet store, but you can save the gas money and the time. It's a lot of time if you add up those trips. So think about that today as you do your work and chores and everything else. Is there something you do regularly that you don't like that much that you can automate like that? All right, I think that does it for today. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you tomorrow where your optimal life awaits.
Hey, this is Dan from the Optimal Finance Daily podcast, which is a lot like this show, except more focused on personal finance. Justin handpicks the best posts he can find from blogs and authors like Ramit Sethi, Mr. Money Mustache, and more, and I read them to you 5 days a week. So if you enjoy this podcast, come on over and subscribe to Optimal Finance Daily too. And together, we'll optimize your financial life.
You've been listening to Optimal Living Daily. Be sure to hit the subscribe button to stay up to date on each new episode and head to oldpodcast.com. That's OLDpodcast.com for a free gift as well as more actionable tips and resources to help you maximize your potential. Thanks for joining us, and remember, your optimal life awaits.